I work for the City of Pittsburgh in the Office of Community Health and Safety in the Roots program. The team lead for the North Side, so I supervise a drop-in center on East Ohio and an outreach team that focuses on people staying outside in the North Side. We connect people with housing resources, provide harm reduction supplies, like wound care, street medicine, hygiene gear, coffee, water, everything little and small. We kind of meet people where they're at and, try to get them connected to what they're interested in.
I am the outreach specialist social work lead through Pittsburgh VA's Healthcare for Homeless Veterans office. My responsibilities are to engage with the unsheltered veteran community within our catchment area. That consists of southwestern PA, the Panhandle of West Virginia, and southeastern Ohio. So the VA does have a very strict protocol that we have to follow to determine whether or not a veteran is able to receive services. Now, it has lessened over the years, especially since around 1985. Currently, the only veterans that cannot receive services through the VA are National Guard veterans who did not deploy to combat zones,
Okay.
or those with negative discharges consisting of dishonorable or a bad conduct by general discharge or general court-martial. So whenever a veteran calls the hotline, we triage the situation, and we could determine what is the best appropriate service, whether it would be our domiciliary program, which is a very intensive 3-month program for homeless veterans at the Aspinwall campus, grant per diem housing or transitional housing. Pittsburgh VA currently has grants for 4 transitional housing sites, 3 of them within Pittsburgh, 1 of them down in Wheeling, West Virginia. Connection with supportive services for veterans and their families, which is another funding that the VA does. It's a grant. In Pittsburgh, you have Soldier On in the Veterans Leadership Program. And then there's numerous other ones throughout our catchment area. We also have the HUD-VASH program, which helps veterans that are financially struggling get vouchers for public housing. We have a substance use program, and we have a justice outreach program for veterans that are involved with the criminal system.
When it comes to the city of Pittsburgh, at least, and it comes to the process for individuals to obtain housing and stuff, they ask a series of questions and things determine their level of vulnerability of being outside. One of which is obviously time spent outside. The higher the time, the more you should probably be inside. This is also the age of the person, how they present, all these things like that. Young people, very older people, more vulnerable. Individuals who have medical problems, more vulnerable. People who use substances, more vulnerable. So all of those are contributing factors that are all on a case-by-case basis every time. Yeah. Once you go through that whole rigmarole, then you get back to what I brought up earlier. Then you have to say, okay, a person has been deemed eligible for a housing program. They are connected to a housing program. Now we find a 1-bedroom within the price range that a housing program will work with a landlord willing to work with a housing program.
So the domiciliary program is for any veteran who is A, homeless, and B, eligible for medical care through the VA. And it's basically for veterans to a townhome, and they get therapeutic services, they get other group therapies, they get intensive case management and employment services as well.
There's options out there besides permanent housing. You know what I mean? There's shelter options, there's rental assistance. When it comes to, if you just want to go from, maybe, I think it might be a better example if you are not motivated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you are not motivated and you are outside and you say, I'm going to be here until something arrives for me, that's a different situation. You know, that would be probably a year until you are, for like on paper, considered chronically homeless.
Like, what resources can you guys provide to homeless people during the winter?
So, you know, we'll go small scale and we'll work our way up. You know, us, like our drop-in center, obviously we have coffee, you know, a place to be during the day. We are open from 10 to 3, so at least during the day you can come in, have a cup of coffee, get warm.
Yeah.
You know, we provide blankets, towels, fresh socks, ponchos. We have a big, they haven't came in yet, but we have a big boot donation that's coming in. Winter boots, we try to get people as equipped as possible. Emergency blankets, any of those instant warming items. Between the site and outreach, it's available to people.
Do you guys like provide hand warmers as well?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
And we can take we would give out as many as we can get. That is, we have people from the community who do stop into the drop-in center and they say, you know, what can we do? You know, what can we do to help? Gloves, beanies, hand warmers, anything like that.
I used to buy those like $30 Coleman sleeping bags from Kmart. I don't know if Kmart even I don't think it even still exists. But those Coleman sleeping bags, they're rated for 50 degrees, so you know, you need hand warmers too, if that's what you got. You know what I mean? And I'd get the hand warmers at like CVS and stuff. Well, I used to use a military poncho as my shelter. Those are great. It's basically just a tarp. It's a poncho, but I would tie the hood shut and use it as a tarp. You could get them at the Army surplus store. I think you could get them at Amazon. Um, but yeah, I mean, you could go get cardboard box route. It all depends on what resources you have available. You know what I mean? If I was sleeping in Central Park, there were bushes that I would sleep under sometimes for shelter, or there was in a city like New York, you got scaffolding everywhere, and then there's shelter around. You just if you don't have your own shelter, you're better off like trying to find a storefront that's not being rented out with a scaffold. But yeah, you need the right clothes. You need sleeping bag, military poncho, hand warmers. Um, I mean, I would say that would be the minimum. A bicycle, if you can get one, because that changes everything. Everything once you can move around like that. Um, like a drag along luggage, but you got to be careful with those because the wheels tend to break off them, and so you're like, yeah, it all depends. The more money you got, the higher quality stuff you should be buying. You know what I mean? Because that stuff lasts. If you keep buying cheap crap, you just keep buying the same stuff over and over. Yeah, I mean, if you don't got the right clothes and a sleeping bag and all that, yeah, I wouldn't even try to sleep outside. I mean, there was a lot of cold nights, and sometimes it's not just the temperature. You know what I mean? Like when it's raining and it's like upper 30s, it's like it's not cold enough to snow, but it's right on the edge there. That's probably the worst conditions to sleep in because you get soaked and like um like I've been in weather where it's like it's not snowing, but as soon as the water hits the ground, it's like ice. You know what I mean? Like that's the worst. But the coldest temperature I ever slept in, I woke up the next day, it said it was -17 in Central Park that night. If I had no like artistic talents, I guess, it also depends on the time of year. You could shovel snow. Um obvious Obviously you got to get your hands on a shovel. If I was just desperate for like food or something, I'd go to some restaurant and ask them if I could work off a meal or something. You know what I mean? Um but how to make money now? If you just have absolutely not $1 to your name, you're gonna have to like panhandle, just to get enough money up to where you can start doing other things, like maybe get your hands on a bike and do like Uber Eats or something. But if you just got nothing and nothing going on, you're just gonna have to panhandle to get the money up to do other things with it. Off the top of my head, I would say Uber Eats or you know, you there was people in New York selling like prints that they would just print off the internet. You know what I'm saying? Like prints of other people's art. I don't really agree with it, but I would get it in like a desperate situation. Um, but yeah, as far as like legal ways to make money with no artistic talents, I can't think of any. I did make a video about that. I just none of them are coming to me right now, but there's more than one way to do it. You'd have to get like, you'd have to get your money up and get the stuff to perform some sort of service, like maybe detailing cars or cleaning shops or shoveling snow. Like, but if you got nothing, you just got to panhandle.
My phone rang, was a person from like the Northside Chamber of Commerce who we talked to and help people like look for jobs. We will sit and help people fill out applications. We will, you know, help people find avenues to get a bus pass to make it to work.
Yeah.
We don't like there's I believe Auberly, which is where Devin works, who came into the class. They have actually work programs to give people training and stuff like that.
Okay.
So it exists in the city, but like Roots, where I work, is not something we have. But we connect people to the people who do.
The only thing, in my opinion, that could really be done would just be fixing the economy to the point where people can afford to rent places. I mean, putting homeless people in shelters and all that, it's all temporary because if they can't work a job and pay rent, they're going to end up back on the street. And a lot of these people have never even had a job. Not a lot of them, but some of them. Like I met a few people on the street in New York who they were raised in group homes. And so once they turn 18, the group home just kicks them out basically. So they've never had jobs. They have no idea how to, function as an adult. So it's like, after a couple of years of just being homeless, they're almost like incapable of working because it's like they can't sit at a register for 8 hours or something. They're too like it's too foreign to them. You know what I mean? But if they could get like some sort of job in construction or something where they could be outside work and actually have it be worth their time to where they're being paid to where they can, create a life for themselves. Like, yeah, in my opinion, the only thing that could really fix it would be if they straightened out the economy and get the rents under control and, pay people more and charge them less for rent would be that's the only solution that I could see, really.
I don't know, right? I think it's a very unique thing, and I don't think it's something that we can pinpoint, say, this causes homelessness exclusively. I think it's a case by case basis, even if it is two individuals who both use substances and their substance use has maybe contributed to their homelessness. I think that's still a very individualized experience, and I think, it could lead people to that. And I mean, when it comes to any sort of conversation, relationship building, anything, that, if I walk through your door and I sit down for an interview, and you start it by saying, like, you're wrong, no, like absolutely not, that's not tolerated. Where does the trust come in? What do you build a relationship? Like I'm in the business of meeting people where they're at, accepting where they're at. If they so choose to do something differently, like, I will support that. But whether it's in my, like, professional or personal life, like, if you're not hurting anybody else, like, get in where you fit in. Do what you need to do. I try my best, and I think I do a decent job of not doing this work with a holier than thou mentality.
Right.
Because I think if you come into it, and you look down on people for these choices, then you can't actually be on their same level, and you can't communicate with people, and you can't, like, get to know why and how and what they want. And that's where I choose to be. That's what I want to be for people.